Good morning, students. Today we are going to start a new chapter, that is Dusk, written by Hector H. Munro, and his pen name is Saki, and we will find the name Saki here in our text. Okay, so here in this particular, it's actually a play where we find three scenes, and the character means the main character, that is Norman Godsby. He claims himself to be an observant. An observant means a person who observes everything minutely. Here at the very beginning of this chapter, this play rather, you are given two pictures and you need to find out the difference. If you are a very good observant, you can obviously find out the difference. So 6 differences are there. About these differences I will definitely discuss in the live class. For example, I can give you a hint. First I want you all to solve it by your own self. Even if you can't, then we will definitely, if you can and if you can't, for both the cases it will be discussed in the live class. One example I can provide. You cannot find the stick that was there with the old man in the first picture, but in the second picture it's not there. Even in the first picture we find one bird, but in the we do not find the bird, but in the second picture we find the bird. So likewise you need to find out more 4 differences. Now let us start the drama. Let us start. So the setting of the setting is the place, and setting, actually in a play, setting refers to certain place and time when and where the incidents took place. So here the setting is a park, that is Hyde Park in London. Now let us start. I hope all of you have kept your books ready. It's a drama, and it's better if it is done in a live way. So I will definitely start this chapter. Let me find out. So far it can be done today, and if it's not completed, it can be done in the next class or even in the live class. Since I have started the chapter today, so it will definitely not be considered as a new chapter. In order to make it more interesting or more interactive, I thought to be I thought to take it in live form, if you all do enjoy. Okay, so let us start. Scene 1. The time is about 6:30 in the evening. It is gradually getting darker. Sound of horse hoofs in the distance slowly getting fainter. A bench, at the center it is placed. Norman Godsby, his friend Harry Crispin, and an old man sitting on the bench. While Godsby is well dressed, the old man has a beaten look about him. It's very simply it's written. You all can definitely understand. He is wearing an old, well-worn suit. As Godsby looks at him, the man gets up from the bench and, walking slowly, exits left. Now Godsby to Crispin says, "There is something really tragic about the man. That suit is in a bad condition. I wonder where he is going. Maybe a boarding house whose rent he can barely pay." Boarding means a boarding house means a private house where guests can stay by paying certain amount of money and have meals as well. Maybe a boarding house whose rent he can barely pay. You cannot know what people are like just by looking at them. So as soon as Godsby found the old man, he said to Crispin about the old man that the person looks really tragic, and something really tragic may happen with the person, and he is not also well dressed up, and it looks like he stays in a boarding house, and its rent cannot be paid by him. Along with that, he also said that it's not quite easy to gaze anything about a person at a first glance. As they talk, a young man enters, sits down on the bench, mutters to himself. His actions are exaggerated, drawing attention to himself. Now it means his expressions were something that you cannot miss. Okay, as Godspeed claims himself to be an observant person, so here he gives that he leaves certain features at the very first at his speech. Now, Godspeed, responding to the man's obvious need for attention, he says, "You don't seem in a very good temper." He asks, means that young man, addressing that young man, whose at means temperament, whose expressions were like that only that you cannot miss even. He asked him that his temper doesn't look in a very, the person is not in a very good mood. Young man says, turning eagerly to Godspeed, he says, "You would not be in a good mood, in a good temper, if you were in the fix I am in the problem that I have come across. Sorry. I have done the silliest thing I have ever done in my life." Gosby says, in a disinterested tone, he says yes, and glances sideway at Crispin. Means he doesn't show much interest to that person. He just wants him to elaborate whatever he has said. The young man says, I got to London just this afternoon with plans to stay at Patagonian Hotel in Berkshire Square. When I got there, I found it had been pulled down some weeks ago, and a cinema theatre was coming up on the side. When he went to London, he had a plan to stay at a certain place, but when he reached there, he found that place is not there. Instead of that, certain cinema theatre was there on that side. What? Now Crispin, almost smiling, says that must have come as a shock. Now young man says, yes, it was. But the taxi driver who had taken me there recommended and the hotel some way off. I went there and got a room. I sent a letter to my people giving them the address and then went out to buy some soap. I had forgotten to pack any soap and I hate using hotel soap. For that reason he went out. Then I strolled about means walked in a little relaxed manner about a little and looked at the shops. When I decided to go back to the hotel, I suddenly realized that I didn't remember its name or even what street it was in. There's a nice situation for a fellow who hasn't any friends or connections in London. Obviously, it's quite, we all can understand how the situation can be. Now Crispin says, well, that's a pity, but not such a desperate situation as you seem to think it is. All you have to do is to go to the nearest telegraph office and where your people asking for the address. Where means you need to go to certain telegram office and you need to send a telegram to your people whom you have given your address. We find Crispin is having means instantly he can provide certain means he can manage and he has the capability to solve instantly. You did send them the address, didn't you? Now young man says, of course I can wait my people for the address, but they won't have got my letter till tomorrow. That's a point as well. Meantime, I'm without any money. And turns to Gosby, who has been silent for a while now. The man did not have money with the person, and that's why he cannot send the telegram, as well as if he sends, then also it will not reach before the next day. I left the hotel with only a shilling on me. Shilling is a coin which I used for buying the soap. So here I am wandering about with 2 pence in my pocket and nowhere to go for the night. Quite terrible situation. Now Godsby says nothing. He sits staring silently at the young man. Then the young man says after a pause, I suppose you think I have made the whole thing up. Means I have said something, I have instantly made something, and I have said something that you might be thinking. Now Crispin says, still with a hint of a smile, keeping a hint, means a bit smiling face, he says, no, not necessarily, not exactly. I remember doing exactly the same thing once in a foreign city, and the same thing may have happened with him. Luckily, there were two of us, which made forgetting the name of our hotel even more remarkable. Luckily, we remembered that it was on a sort of canal. When we got to the canal, we were able to find our way back to the hotel. Remember that, Norman? He says that you are alone, and it's quite obvious. It happened with us once when we were two, and we also even forgot. We also forgot the name of the hotel, but we remembered certain landmarks, and in that way we reached there. Now young man says eagerly, "Oh, in a foreign city, I wouldn't mind so much. One could go to one's embassy and get help there. Here in one's own country, it feels far more foolish to go about forgetting names. Unless I can find some decent chap to believe me and lend me some money, I will probably have to spend the night out in the open. Anyway, I'm glad you don't think I am telling you an impossible tale." Now, the person, the young man, he says that he wants someone to provide him. He provides this indirect hint that he wants someone to provide him to lend certain amount of money. Otherwise, he would have to pass the night open. And he also stresses that he is quite sure that they are not taking whatever he has said as certain something made up, or certain made up story sort of. Now Gosby says slowly, "Of course the weak point of your story is that you can't produce the cake of soap." Now the man sits up, feels through the pockets of his overcoat, and jumps to his feet. Now young man says, with obvious anger, "I must have lost it." Now Gosby could understand the situation, and he cracked the right thing, and the young man could not. He acted, but he couldn't find that. Now Crispin, he laughs and says, laughing now, he says, "You lost your hotel and a cake of soap in the same afternoon. Looks like extreme carelessness to me." The man looks away and then, adopting a confident posture, walks off right. Crispin is still laughing. Gosby is more restrained and smiling softly. He was quite confident that the man was lying. Now Gosby says, "Such a pity. Going out to get his own soap was the only true sounding part of the whole story." But he didn't realize how that could become a problem. Yes, the excuse was quite, uh, means it was a good one, but it could be a problem that the man did not think. If only he had had the forethought to get himself a cake of soap, we would have believed him. If the merchant would have thought of producing the proof, it would have been it would have been more realistic, or they would have believed that. You can't be a successful con man unless you pay attention to details. Means you cannot be, con man means a person who tricks others uh, into giving him money. So he could have been that type of person. He could have, if he could have managed the requirements, the proofs, whatever was required. Now, Crispin says it was just his bad luck to have come to us rather than anyone else. Anyway, let us leave. We have to meet Teddy for dinner by 8. They stand up to leave, but Crispin's attention is caught by something on the ground. It's a small oval packet. Crispin bending to pick up the packet. "What's this?" Now Gosby says, "Oh, this must be the cake of soap that the young man was talking about. It must have fallen out of his pocket when he sat down. We must find him." and then they exit right hurriedly. So here we find that the man was not lying, the thing was fallen over there. So what Norman Godsby claimed to be like a observant, so we find here certain things were missed. Now scene 2, a path leading away from the park. Gosby and Crispin walking quickly to find out the man, obviously. Looking out for the young man, they see him in the distance walking by the canal. Crispin calls out, "Hey you, man who lost his hotel." The man turns around, throws an angry look at them. They walk up to him. Gosby says, holding out the cake of soap, "The proof of your story has turned up. It must have slipped out of your overcoat pocket when you sat down on the seat. We saw it on the ground after you left. You must excuse our earlier disbelief. Though I'm sure you see it all looked impossible to believe without the cake of soap." You can also understand that the story would have been a false without this proof. Now it's only fair that we should help you with what you need. Means we need to provide you certain amount of money. Holding out his hand with a sovereign in it, means an old British gold coin. He stretches his arm. "If the loan of a sovereign is any good to you, if it comes to your help anyway." The young man puts his hand out and takes the coin. Now Gosby says, "Here is my card with my address. You can return the money any day this week. And here is the soap. Don't lose it again. It has been a good friend to you." Now the young man says, "A lucky thing you're finding it." And haltingly he says, "Thank you." The man turns and starts walking away at a fast pace and exits right. Gosby says, as the two friends walk back the way they had come, "Poor boy, he almost broke down." Means he was about to cry. "It must have been such a relief to find a way out of this problem. It's a lesson to us not to be too clever in judging people by circumstances." Now scene 3. Gosby and Crispin are passing by the bench they were sitting on earlier. They see the old man who had been sitting there earlier looking for something on the ground. Now Gosby curiously says, "Have you lost anything, sir?" Old man says, still bending over the grass, muttering to himself, he says, "Funny thing how easily these things just disappear. Now where could it be?" Now Gosby again says, but a bit louder, "Have you lost anything, sir?" Old man says, turning around, looking worried, he says, "Oh, nothing much, young man, just a cake of soap. It must have slipped out of my pocket when I got up. You haven't seen it, have you?" So this is the punchline, this is the irony of the story, or the theme. Means the entire play comes to the conclusion of an irony. Irony means something that you expect it to be and exactly it turns out into a different thing. So here we find irony, obviously. Now this is the entire drama and it's quite nice. Now next I have completed the entire drama, though I had a mind to do only the first two scenes, but I couldn't resist myself. So this is something called irony. Okay, so this is the play. I hope you all will definitely enjoy, and obviously we will read it again in the live class, and there you have to play certain roles that will be fixed immediately on that particular class. So along with this particular class, as I told you all, you will get the study material where the answer keys, probable answer keys of the chapter Monday morning will be given, along with the worksheet on this play Dusk. So this much for today. Thank you children, have a nice day, and obviously keep on doing your work. Bye bye.